If it was just pure arithmetic, there would be no need for any other person to run. Arithmetically, in spite of the fact that many people have inundated the space with a lot of half-truths, a lot of pseudo-truths, a lot of sophist arguments, we have to tell ourselves the truth. The truth stares us in the face, and the truth is very clear that since 1999, I'm going to speak slowly for the sake of the average Nigerian, and I'm going to try as much as possible in preaching this to be as deliberate and ordinary. Since 1999, we've had, by next year, it will be 24 years since our new democracy. And in this since 1999, in 24 years, that is the 23rd year, the South has actually had a more robust romance with presidential power. And it doesn't matter whether we want to wake up on the right side of the bed or not. For the PDP, it's even more dire. In the PDP has engaged in 6 elections thus far. And in those 6 elections, the PDP has given its presidential ticket to the South 4 times. So if the PDP decides in 2023 election to give that ticket, I'm a Southerner. I'm not just a Southerner, I'm a leader of a major bloc in the South. If we decide to give it, it means that at the end of the election, the PDP would have given the Southern ticket, the national presidential ticket to the South 5 times and just 2 times to the North. That is the truth. In 1999, the PDP presidential candidate was Obasanjo. In 2003, it was Obasanjo. In 2007, it was Yar'Adua. In 2011, it was Jonathan. In 2015, it was Jonathan. And in 2019, Atiku. My fingers are here. And I think facts and truth don't lie, in spite of how we try to create a circumbendibus around it. Number 2, if you look at the share numbers, 8 years for Olusegun Obasanjo, 5 years and 3 months for Jonathan, and for the PDP, and the remaining 2 years and 9 months for Yar'Adua. So for the PDP has only allowed the north of Nigeria. I don't even want to look at it. When I hear north and south, we are saying things that don't actually resonate anymore in Nigeria. We have 6 geopolitical zones. Those are the engagement paradigms that we have now in terms of structural division of the country and the 36 states therefrom. Out of this, the only zone that last tasted any form of power at the federal level, either as a leader of government business or as a chief executive of government, is the Northeast. Is the minority peoples of the Northeast. Every Southerner thinks every Northerner is a house of Fulani. That is not true. People forget that all the people in the areas of Bauchi, Gombe, Adamawa, and Co., we have plethora of ethnic nationalities and minorities, the Kere, the Bachama, the Shua Arab. These are the people who have never tasted political power. Nobody who is from Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, Yobe, Borno, or Bauchi states have been president of Nigeria in 56 years. The Southeast even has a little more advantage in the sense that Johnson Omonakoya-Aguiyi-Ironsi was president or supreme commander of the armed forces and head of state as at July 1966 when he was overthrown by Yakubu Gowon. So we have to tell ourselves the truth. The 2 most marginalized areas of Nigeria in terms of bringing whoever rules at the federal level is the Northeast on top and followed closely by the Southeast. Maybe there is something wrong with the East in their names. Those 2 zones are the most marginalized. Nobody should actually be running from the Southwest. It is a travesty. Because the Southwest in the last 24 years, yet to be completed 24 years of return to democracy, have enjoyed power for 16. either as president, 8 years for Olusegun Obasanjo, or 8 years, which will be completed next year, by the sitting Vice President Yemi Osibajo. And for the South, we are the immediate past president of the country, the penultimate president of Nigeria, prior to the takeover by President Muhammadu Buhari. He's a Southerner. So but Nigerians must know that people from the areas of the Northeast, Atiku's people, have never tasted power in Nigeria in 56 years. And the same goes for those of the Southeast. Truth has no color, it's as translucent as water. So basically that is what, so when I hear zoning, I just keep quiet. The zoning was jettisoned in 2011. I actually did a documentary to try and stop that. Let's not stop this zoning in favor of a Southerner. I still remember that statement made by Goodluck Jonathan at Wadata Plaza and my crew then, and we recorded it, where he quoted the same article that everybody is banding now. So, but it was thrown out the door for the sake of the fact that a man was already sitting there in power. So let's not even go through that. I just pray that Nigerians will wake up and smell the coffee and see that we cannot, for the sake of minute or minor lucre, throw away truth through the back door.
It's just a few days to the presidential primaries.
Yeah.
What's the stage of consultation? Are you done going around? What's next for the team?
What is next is for the decisions to be made. Presently, every state that has been visited by my principal, let me quote Dino Milai, you don't bench your Ronaldo, you don't bench your Messi. And it is seen anytime he steps up the plane. You know, Adora said he's a unifier, but maybe I will put this in another way. He's a bridge across the Niger. When you go on any of the stores with him, I've been opportune to go to a couple with him, I actually weep inside of me when I see the way people, the real politicians, those who are the immediate stakeholders in deciding the future of the political ticket, or the presidential ticket. You can see them. They know him. There's a movie in America, you know, when you run for election, you go for the name you know, a resonating name, a name that has, over time, built itself as a brand, that has its own brand essence. And I think, you know, let's be frank with ourselves. Of all those that are there, they're all qualified. They're all gentlemen. They've all tried and done well. But when you place each and every one of them against Waziri Atiku Abubakar, he dwarfs everybody. Every other person turns out to look like a little political Lilliputian. That is the truth. When you go to a village in Karanamuda, when you go to a village in Umuneochi or Ikeduru, when you go to a village maybe in Iragbeji or Ikirun, there is no village you will go to that nobody will not know the name of Waziri Atiku Abubakar. So it's not going to be a difficult sell, because in the last election, in spite of the fact that everybody knew what would happen in that election, he was already credited with about 12 million votes, which is even more than all the votes that Muhammadu Buhari, who ran for this last election his 5th time, had garnered in all the years he was running for election from 2003 to 2015. So when you look at it from the winnability quotient, from the capacity quotient, it is no rocket science that Atiku dwarfs every other person in the race.
All right.
And that is a truism.
Okay, let me come to the realities on ground, and perhaps let's separate the myth from the facts.
Yes.
Let's look at the demographics.
Yes.
In practicality, the breakdown of the demography. You mentioned 811 delegates.
Yes, yes.
Now, from what the breakdown of the demography shows, in some of the rundown, says that 440 would come from the north, 372 from the south, 193 delegates from the northwest, 143 from the southwest, and 129 from South-South, 128 from North-Central, 119 from the Northeast, and Southeast 100. And when they broke down the demography amongst the candidates who they felt were the top runners, including His Excellency, they felt North Central, of course, the Kwara effect. You know, you're talking about Saraki. And they broke down and said for the Southeast, perhaps they're also thinking that with the support of Ikbazu and Ugwai, that might tilt towards Wike. And then they came down to breaking it down in the Southwest. Of course, Fayose is in the race. They're thinking that he might lock down Ekiti. However, Wike is looking good with Oyo because of Makinde. And then they looked at Ondo Ogunoshun and say, well, this is in between Saraki, Atiku. And in Delta State, you talk about Cross River, Edo, which is between Obi, Saraki, and Atiku. And of course, Bayelsa is tilting towards Wike. Now, if you look at all of this conversations on democracy and how they have broken it down because of alliances, how definitive is this within the conversation of the practicality?
I'm very happy that you just conveniently decided not to mention the Northeast. Neither did you mention the Northwest. You see, these metrics are simple. There are 774 local government areas, and all the 774 represent just one national delegate, along with 37 disabled, one per state plus one for the capital territory, Abuja. Now, looking at it, I had 95 delegates minus the disabled for the Northeast, for the Southeast, making the Southeast the smallest in terms of geo-representation. And then you look at the others, in addition to the 500. Now look at the Northwest. The Northwest of Nigeria has the largest amount of of delegates. Now, based on this matrix, followed by the Southwest, which is a playing ground. Now, in my state, Amedo, in my state.
Why do you say Northwest is a playing ground?
I say Southwest.
Southwest
is the playground for the PDP.
For the PDP, yes.
Because I know you heard, you said somewhere just now that maybe in Fayose will lock Ekiti, which is the smallest in the Northwest, in the Southwest, with just 13 local government areas. And so they have just 14 delegates. But if you look at the larger, 140 plus the 146 for the Southwest, break it down. Let's look at it again. They've done their metric. You said alliances. I'm using your words. Across board, the only person that has the almost cross-country alliance that dwarfs every other person, that dates back 20, 30 years, based on either a marriage matrix, a political engagement matrix, or name, Atiku. Now, I look at a man, you say unifier. I look at a man whose best friends are either from the Southeast or whose best friends are from the Southwest. I look at a man whose own people have vilified prior to now for being not Northern enough, not Muslim enough, not extremist enough, too friendly to the South, too friendly. This is a man who has run twice for elections at the presidential level. He did not only pick twice Igbo men, he actually picked twice Obi. This is a man who ran once for the presidential seat and took Ben Obi, and ran the second time and took Peter Obi. I also think, Nigerians are grateful should be grateful to Atiku. Because Peter Obi is a sound man. But it is the Atiku ride that brought him to that prominence. And you look at it again. When I look at a man who in the 70s, when there was no need for politics, is genial enough, open-minded and open-hearted enough to have married his first wife, who is a Yoruba woman. He has an Igbo woman. He has children who are either first cousins of Igbos and first cousins of Yorubas. And he is a man from the Northeast whose originating father ancestry is in the Northwest. Atiku is Nigerian. And he has a characteristic and a presence and even a courage that is above everyone. You cannot ascribe to him the brigandage of one of our South governors who gets to wherever he is by fighting or by spewing verbal diarrhea over everybody, rubbing everybody in the mud as he goes along. No. We need in Nigeria right now, because of the nature of the challenges we face, a man who will sit on a plane and his brother's-in-law is an Igbo man from Ikeduru. A man who will sit on the plane and his brother-in-law is a Yoruba man from Osun State. Those are the kind of persons we need. A man who knows that if Boko Haram is going to spew guns, a man who is not going to take sides, because if he throws it into the marketplace, most likely to be his sister-in-law, his father-in-law, his mother-in-law that might be affected. I look at it. I told myself, Pedro, if Nigeria is to move forward, if it's not to be halted on the back, on this doorstep of the things that will pull us down, there is no better thing to do than to give this opportunity to Atiku Abubakar. And it's not an accidental candidate. You know, you have to understand that Nigeria has been, we've been victims of accidental candidates. It's not a man that you are going to ask tomorrow what he thinks. It is there on paper. Anybody who thinks, okay, let me throw this one in for those of us in social media. Just go your Twitter. As we speak as of last week, the most followed Nigerian politician on Twitter, the figures are in my head, is Atiku Abubakar. As of last week, he had 4.12 million people on Twitter as followers. 120,000 more than even the president. That is, there are more people who listen and talk with Atiku on the social media platform on a daily basis than any other Nigerian living, any other Nigerian politician living out there. You know, and I tell myself, how do we embrace this man who can help shape our future? He has nothing else to gain. And that is how I say it. And that is why I think on Saturday and Sunday, this will not be lost on the 811 people. They understand that apart from likability, apart from social media ringability, we are going to look at PDP winnability. Who go fit win this election for us? Look at the plethora of people that the APC might throw up. Even if they put their election, their stuff a day or 2 or 3 days after PDP, it doesn't matter. None of those persons can stand pied de pied, that is with the French, toe to toe with Atiku. They dwarf. That is the truth. So if the PDP, because you first of all have to get power for you to be able to do anything with it. You get my point? So it is very obvious that in terms of the winnability quotient for the PDP as a party, and who can talk to everybody across board, who was once upon a time supported by everybody across board, including those who are contesting with him now. There must have been something that is definitely defining that Atiku's last presidential election, his DG was Saraki. Atiku's last presidential election, his vice, his deputy, his running mate, his ombudsman was P2B. There must be something uniquely uppity about Atiku. Okay, Tikana.
That's what we're doing here, aren't we?
Dr. Obaseki, we've looked at the acceptability, spoken about social media, the likeness on social media, and generally the personality of Atiku Abubakar. But if he wins, many Nigerians will be looking at what he's bringing on board. And one of the major, major issues right now is the issue of insecurity. Yes. Looking at the time when he was in governance, when he was in government, and now a lot has happened in terms of our insecurity. What is that, what I call it, the magic one that we expect to see? Because Nigerians are really, there's fear. Does he understand what is on ground right now? Does he understand what he's coming into right now?
Do you know the 3 hotbeds of this Wahala right now? It is the northeast. It is Yobe, Borno, and Adamawa.
Same area.
Not same area, his home base. Don't you get it? He lives it. He knows it. Every other person has an idea about it. You don't live there. I remember when we were building AIT in Maiduguri. I cannot forget that day. I still remember the face of Mrs. Tosin Dokbesi as we were opening that day. I still remember all the challenges of driving. Once we are getting close to Bauchi, or you are getting close to Yola, or you are getting close to the paucity, the fear. And then Boko Haram was not as monstrous as it is now. This was at 2013. I still remember what the governor said. He said, people are running away from our side, but AIT came and built here. Now let me tell you, a man with a gun is majority. Until you see the gun nozzle in front of you. We were told in 2015 that Boko Haram will be decimated like flies, gathering or hovering over stale meat. It is not about how well you have general epaulets and stuff. This is real. You need people who live in situ, who understand the immediacy of the war on terrorism, who have been in it, who live it. And of all the aspirants, the only one who sits in it, stews in it, calibrates how it goes on because of it, is Atiku Abubakar. He is the only one amongst all the, whether in the PDP or in the APC, all combined. Every other body is doing junketing, alawada, kere. That is not the thing. The only person who comes from the hotbed of the area, in the area where these are happening. And I don't think he wants his people to continue to face such decimation. And he has given his cardinal 5-point agenda. And those things are things that are doable because of what he had been. He had been in government. Not only been in government, he has also had paramilitary training. He got to the point of being a deputy controller general of
Deputy Comptroller.
Deputy Controller General of where?
Of the customs.
And what happens in Nigeria? Basically, at every point of entry, at every border control in Nigeria is the customs and the immigration. So he knows. When I hear people say, I got to handle security, sorry, I want to be as arithmetically ordinary as possible so that Nigerians will understand that of everybody presently that may be running for government, the only person who understands, because he lives it on a daily basis, because his investments, his biggest investments in Nigeria are also in the Northeast. His university is just a few couple of hundreds of kilometers from the hotbeds of this. It's Atiku Abubakar. Every other person only has a general idea because they read it also. Wike reads it, he doesn't live it. That is the truth. PDP reads it, he doesn't live it. Just like Adora and yourself and Pedro Saro are going for Obaseki reads it, we don't live it. But Atiku Abubakar lives it.
But we feel it.
And he will feel it. So they say that person when we wear shoe, I know where they pin him. We go just look the design. Say,
so he's in the Northeast right now as we speak, or
he's actually as we so speak because of the gubernatorial primaries. Atiku Abubakar is in Yola as we so speak. That is the truth.
All right,
and he will come back to Abuja in the next 24 hours to superintend over the primary effort, his efforts to get the ticket. You see, I don't even want to. There's no saying the fact that we have 2 runners in this race, Atiku and every other person running against Atiku. That is the truth. Dino Melaya say, they change your Ronaldo, and that is the truth. Right now, for the PDP, the Ronaldo, the Messi for the PDP is Wazirin Adamawa Atiku Abubakar.
All right, you mentioned the Northwest earlier and the Northeast. I quite, clearly stated that because of the Tambuwal effect, of course, the Northwest. And I know the kind of relationship that they will share as well,
Yes.
dating back. But what delegates are delegates. We hope that the delegates will, choose the best man standing and not the pockets or the deeper pockets. Because again, that comes to play when you are talking about, the spree that usually happens before the night before.
You say I did television. You see what the FCC did to Rochas yesterday? They came through the roof, like what they call it, like ninja, like ninja. I don't get the money when they share. I don't know who they share money. I don't have any idea about the money. I don't think. You see, the truth of the matter is, hunger pervades the land, and these are the things that I think Atiku will have to address. And it is a truth that must be addressed. I don't think tomorrow or the Saturday and Sunday event will be based on who spends the most. I don't think so. Oh. The choices are few, and the choices are not far between. And the delegates, because of the fact that they are fewer now, a lot fewer than was expected. We're expecting about almost 5,000 delegates based on the new matrix that was proposed. And if you use the last one that happened, about almost 3,000 delegates. Now we just had 811. The ability and capacity to drill and convince them has gone up exponentially by 1 to 4. So if before the energy I would have spent in talking to 4,800 delegates, I will have more time now to spend that energy in just talking to just the time I will spend on 4 or 5 is what I will not spend on 1. I think it is easy.
Dr. Obaseki, when we look at what is happening in Nigeria and, the position you are taking now about talk and politics, looking at politics and monetization. In fact, at the NPC meeting yesterday, the issue of money politics and how it is already affecting, the country's economy, leading to also contributing, to inflation, which also led to that decision to increase rates so that you can mop up. In Nigeria, the issue of money politics cannot take a back seat. So when you say we have fewer people, I see a situation where it's going to be like the highest bidder. You have to really come. There are few now, so you really need to be able to.
You are a journalist, and you must be careful not to make certain opinionations. You know why I'm saying that? You see, me, although I'm a journalist,
I'm speaking from what has happened. It's not an opinion. What has been happening over time, even in governorship elections, council elections, the last elections, the elections that were held at the local level. There were reports about how it was monetized. So when we come to this level where the big boys are, that they also know that they have fat pockets. Dr. Obaseki, are you not seeing what many persons are seeing, that these primaries, both in the PDP and even in the APC, there is a likelihood that money, would decide who may also get. So everybody should be prepared.
Yeah, I want to just do this as an advice because I am not directly involved in the process. When I say directly involved, I'm not going to share money. For those of them who are close to me, I don't share money. And if I share money, I will be governor today. You cannot change the paradigm if you don't want to really change it. You have to have the willingness to want to change it. When we were younger, many of us stood in front of tanks and buried. We weren't thinking about the money. But when you live in an economy, in a Nigeria, where everything that hits you is based on money, when you play your music, the children no longer want to listen to calibrated love songs.
Even the music itself has to
they want to hear kitty kitty. When you hear kata kata,
and the vehicles and the spraying and all.
Spraying, you go to parties, and so it is an endemic thing that has eaten. In short, it is tearing up the fabric, and I think that if any of the why I feel the 811 is much more difficult to bribe. That's just the truth. In Edo South, for example, where that money was shared in open display, Governor Obaseki still won by 81,000 vote difference between himself and the opponent. In Benin City, he had 43,000 votes against the APC's 18,000 votes. So people were taking the money of the aspirant, of the candidates they didn't want. They still took the money and voted, let me use your word, their conscience. You see, I don't think that it is easier to hide those monetization in a large motley, in a crowd. But when we can pinpoint each and every one of them, like it is, I mean, Edo State is just going to have 19 delegates. Previously, there would have been 50-something. So I can know, okay, this man, this man, this man. And the voting patterns will be clear. I don't think that monetization of the space is perpetuated only by the giver. You know, it's a transactional thing. If you give and I don't take, or you give, I take, and I don't bid, or do the bid, the transaction fails.
So in the end, the hope is that even if you take the money, use your head.
No, I don't want, you see, as someone who's conversant with the law, I do not make critical judgments or pronouncements out of ignorance or suppositions. I know many people believe that this happens. I know, because when I say I know, it's a point of knowledge, because I have been a victim once upon a time. But I will not say this is what will happen on Saturday and Sunday when it has not happened.